Hello and welcome everyone. It's good to have you back again. Our course for this semester is tourism. Okay, tourism, the business of hospitality and travel. So basically, everything we're going to learn is going to revolve around tourism. Many of us know what tourism is, and we've even at one time or the other found ourselves being tourists. So I think basically the course is going to be a kind of eye opener for us to gain more or to learn more about all what tourism entails. So as you can see on the slide here, we are going to talk about the introductory aspect of tourism first. So that's the first chapter in the main reading of the book that have been attached to the portal. So kindly refer to the portal so as to download the book for your reference. So first we're going to go to the introductory aspect, which is introducing the world's largest world largest industry, which is tourism. The learning objectives, they are quite in a number of folds. We'll try to understand and explain the basic definition, after which we will identify the major participants and forces shaping the tourism industry. Thereafter, we'll also move ahead to explain the historical factors that encourage the development of tourism before we now try to explain the impact of physical, human, and regional geography on tourism activities. After that, we'll try to explain why tourism should be studied from marketing, management, and financial perspectives. We're going to see the importance of all this, okay, to the tourism industry. Then we'll further move to discuss we'll further try to identify the future challenges and opportunities facing the tourism industry, and lastly, try to discuss the career prospects in the tourism industry. Actually, this may end up being an assignment because I feel that, like I mentioned on the portal, it should be interactive enough. So I want us to learn together, all right? I want us to move together in the course of learning this particular course. Tourism is the business of hospitality and travel. That is just the basic description of the course, okay, of the subject. It's a multifaceted industry which is composed of many varied components. When you look at the tourism industry very well, you realize that there are various components when we want to talk about travel. Do you want to talk about the agency, the services industry, the accommodation providers, the hoteliers, and so on, the travel handlers, airline, even those within the country that operate the land in form of the road operators. So all these components, all these industries are combined together when we talk about tourism. Like I mentioned earlier, tourism is one of the largest. In fact, if not the largest, all right, it's one of the largest industries in the world. Okay, that it contributes about 11%, if I'm not mistaken, of the global GDP. That's the gross domestic product, and it employs more than 200 million people worldwide, because over 200 million people actually travel globally, okay, yearly for different purposes, whether business, whether for leisure, whether for, even study. All right, there are some people that do travel abroad to study. So all these are comprised under the tourism. So services and tourism. Services and tourism actually go hand in hand. There is no how you want to talk about the tourism industry without talking about services, because tourism entails providing services to tourists. So tourism is a truly worldwide activity, like I mentioned earlier. People travel far and near for different purposes, all right, and it's an important part of the economic fabric of many communities, regions, and countries. There are so many countries that rely so much on tourism due to their countries having tourist attractions and so on. So tourism is a very major component of their GDP when it comes to income realization. So that is why tourism is very, very important, okay, whether to many communities, because they're going to welcome tourists, and to many regions as well as countries. Now we want to talk about tourism in detail. We've mentioned briefly about tourism before, but now we want to define tourism, all right? So tourism is the temporary movement of people to destinations outside their normal places of work. There are different dimensions to which people can define. There are various definitions, and there have been, various ways of defining tourism. All right, but this is a kind of a comprehensive explanation or definition of tourism, which is the temporary movement of people to destinations outside their normal places of work or residence. Okay, they try to move to other places apart from their usual places where they work and where they reside. The activities undertaken during their stay in those destinations are also included in what tourism entails, and the facilities created to cater for their needs or to their needs is also embedded when we're trying to discuss about tourism. So tourism entails a lot. It really entails a lot. It's not a one-way thing. It's not a one-way activity. So you want to talk of it from the movement of people, whether from their workplace or their residential places to some other places. So when they even get to the other places, what are the other activities? What are the activities they engage when they get there? And then what are the facilities that are used to cater for them in terms of, for example, maybe hotel where they reside, where they're accommodated, the forms of transportation that they use. At times some they want to use depending on the location of their destination. And the major form of transportation could be water, okay? It could be by road, it could be train or rail. So all these are embedded in what tourism is all about. Another suggested term for tourism is visitor service industry, all right? It's a visitor service industry because you are now receiving visitors and you have to serve them or satisfy their needs. So that says this figure depicts the relationship between blind men and tourism, just trying to tell us that there are various facets, okay, of tourism, and it's actually all these are embedded in what tourism is. Tourism could be pictured or depicted as the elephant now, all right? So we have various aspects, which is depicted with the many blind men that we can see in the figure. Okay, it talks about the destination. Another blind man would see tourism from the perspective of transportation. Another blind man will see it from the perspective of attraction and entertainment. Some will see it from the perspective of travel agencies. All these are combined together to give us the bigger picture of what is known as tourism. So the elephant here represents tourism, while all these blind men represent the major aspect, okay, or the focus or component of tourism. So next we want to look at the components of the tourism industry, like as depicted in the with the elephant and the blind men. We have accommodation services, like I mentioned before, the hotels and so on, or those residential apartments that are used for rental, okay, short period of time, for a short period of time. We have the railway passenger transport services, water passenger transport services, like I mentioned earlier, depending on the location of the tourists. Then we also have the transport equipment rental services. The cultural services is also included. The country-specific tourism goods is also included. There are some countries that have specific items. For example, if you go to Saudi Arabia, of course, you'll be sure to get what we call the Zamzam water. So there are some places that you just have to get there, or that is where those items are particularly known, or that is where they exist. That is where you can get those particular items. So that is an example of the country-specific tourism goods, okay, goods that are country-specific. We also have the food and beverage services, those that supply maybe the hotels and so on. Okay, the road passenger transport services is also included, the air, travel agencies and other reservation services, the sport and recreational services. All these are embedded in the tourism services. And lastly, we have the country-specific tourism services as well. And this is according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. The tourism model. In order for us to have a global perspective or a holistic perspective of tourism, we're going to look at the tourism model. Okay, so in order to overcome all the problems encountered when we are trying to describe what tourism is, there's this particular tourism model was developed. Okay, so it comprises of the traveling public, which is known as the tourists. Okay, the traveling public are known as the public, and they are the focal or the heart of the model. So you can't talk about tourism without the tourists. So if there are no tourists, then we'll not be talking about tourism. So we also have the tourism promoters, and these are the people that link the traveling public, that's the tourists, with the suppliers of the services. They're going to link those that are traveling with, okay, those that will provide them with accommodation, those that will provide them with transportation, those that will provide them with maybe feeding, those that will provide them with maybe leading them to decide attraction areas and so on and so forth. So we call them tourist guide. So all these are the work of tourism promoters. Theirs is to link the tourist or the traveling public to all these suppliers of services. Tourism suppliers also provide services that tourists need when they travel. They are the ones they are going to cater for all this. Then we also have the external forces also in this particular tourism model, because this will affect all the participants in tourism, not only the tourists. It's going to affect the promoters as well as the suppliers. So apart from the tourists, who are the main side of, the main focal point in the tourism model, we have the suppliers of the services, we have the promoters who are going to link the tourists to these suppliers. So here is the model. As you can see, the travelers are at the heart. These are the tourists. They are at the heart of the model. Then the next level is the promoter, because they are going to link the tourism suppliers to the travelers. That's the tourists. So at the end of the day, we also have the external environment, which is going to affect all these three parties: the tourist, the tourism promoters, as well as the tourism service suppliers. So regardless of whatever situation, the external environment tend to affect all this. And for the external environment, we have issues such as the economy, okay, politics, technology, environment, the society, as well as the culture. So all these we're still going to treat one after the other. So this is the integrated model of tourism. It has actually embedded all the parties, okay, of tourism. Like I mentioned before, the travelers, the tourism promoters, the tourism service suppliers, as well as the environment. Moving on now, we want to talk about the milestone in development of tourism. Okay, tourism. These are just the major milestone, because when you want to talk about tourism, then it is as old as maybe ages or whatever, whichever way you want to describe it. But briefly, I'll just skip through or read through just a few of the highlights here. Okay, you can still refer to the ebook for a detailed explanation of all these milestones in the tourism industry. We have the pre-recorded history of tourism, and this is where travel begins to occur out of sense of adventure and curiosity. Okay, before the pre-recorded history, the main reason for traveling is just for you to have an adventure or curiosity. You're curious about something, you want to find out about it. Then we have the era between 4850 BC to 715 BC, and this was where the highlight was majorly when Egyptians traveled to centralized government and locations. So moving on, we have other milestones too. It will be worthy to mention that between 900 BC and 200 BC, the Greeks developed common language and currency, okay, as a result of this travel or tourism. And traveler services also emerge as the city-states become destinations. So when they are beginning to have tourists around, and they thought of developing common language and common currency. So also we have between 1096 AD and 1295 AD, that was when the European traveled on failed religious crusade to retake the Holy Land from Muslim controls, and this introduced they introduced their military forces to new places and culture. So that was another milestone. And moving further, we have between the 18th and the 19th century. This was when there was an industrial revolution, okay? And it was this industrial revolution that gave rise to technological advances, which made the travel and trade more efficient, and it also contributed to expansion of markets. It's also increased the personal incomes and make travel both a business necessity and a leisure activity. Furthermore, in terms of the milestone, going to 1841, we want to talk about the Thomas Cook, which organizes the first group tour in England. That was when the first group tour was actually recorded. It occurred in England. Looking at 1945, his milestone was the Second World War. Okay, the Second World War ended and ushers in new era of prosperity. After the Second World War, there was new era of prosperity, giving rise to millions of people with time, money, and interest to travel for pleasure and business. Then 1978, there was competition on routes, and the first began with signing of Airline Deregulation Act. You know, as all these things occur, there will be developments, there will be adjustments, there will be new things, okay, new things will be discovered, there will be inventions, there will be innovations, and so on. So it's really what the world really, reading the milestones in the development of the tourism industry. Moving on to 1984, that was when the State Council of China approved the organization of tours to Hong Kong, right? And we have the Machao for mainland residents visiting their relatives. They are allowed to visit their relatives, which was the prelude to the outbound tourism of Chinese citizens. So the last slide on my milestones in the development of tourism, we have 1996. That was when Expedia is founded, or was founded as a division of Microsoft. In 2000, the TripAdvisor is founded. I think most of us should be familiar with this particular website, TripAdvisor. So they actually tell you or give you detailed information about tourist attraction centers generally. So if you visit the website, you see information on particular destination, what you need to know, maybe their culture, their food, whatever. And then you want to book a flight, you want to do, a lot of things that you can do on the site. So moving on to 2004, Mark Zuckerberg, who is a Harvard student, launches a social networking service, Facebook.com. And that is, it's now Meta, okay? It's now been named Meta. And then lastly, in 2011, Google provides an online booking service, Google Flight, to the public. So these are some of the major highlights in the development of tourism. Now we want to move on to the history of travel in tourism. If you look at what we've previously discussed just now, okay, about the milestone, we have the prehistorical, whatever. So we'll see that all these years, or all these milestones are actually categorized, okay, and they can be categorized into 5, okay, or under 5 main categories. The first is the Empire era. The second is the Middle Ages and the Renaissance era, the Grand Tour era, the Mobility era, as well as the modern era. So for the for the Empire era, this stretched from the time of the Egyptians to the Greeks, all right, and it finally came to an end with the fall of the Roman Empire. So it was, the Empire era actually ended with the fall of the Roman Empire. For the Middle Ages and the Renaissance era, travel almost disappeared, all right, during this particular period as dominance of the Roman Empire crumbled. Okay, since it has crumbled, traveling actually became it became a problem. It became dangerous and sporadic. It was dangerous for people to travel. For the Grand Tour era, of course, this, according to the name, it's going to mark an era of luxurious traveling. It marked the height of travel globally. Of course, we have the wealthy English then, okay, who could afford to travel, and that spread to other people, people as well. Then we have the mobility era, like the name implies, people could move. It's marked a land. I mean, it was a landmark in the travel industry or the tourism industry. Then lastly, we have the modern era. That is where we have all this development of websites, of service providers, apps, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is just a brief history of travel in tourism. Here is the Marco Polo's travel routes. Here is the typical reasons for travel according to survey: to visit friends and relatives. Many people, over 40% of people indicated that they travel to visit friends and relatives. Then followed by those who travel for vacation or leisure, which is 37%. And we also have about 20% of people who travel for business or professional. And then for other reasons, maybe for example, health, seeking health, there are some who travel for medical reasons, all right? So that is about 3% of the reasons why people actually travel. Geography describes the traveler's world. There is no way you can understand tourism or tourism generally without understanding geography, or there is no way you can understand it without the knowledge of geography. Okay, travel is a key component when it comes to all tourism activities. All tourism activities entail traveling majorly. That is the major activity when it comes to tourism. So a basic understanding of geography is going to enrich our understanding of the travel industry. Okay, so when we are talking about traveling, you're talking about tourism, you need to have a kind of some level of knowledge about geography. All right, so as future tourism professional, you may find yourself working in various positions that requires that you need at least not even just the basic understanding of geography. At times you need to know more than the basic understanding of geography. So generally, knowing more requires that maybe you know about map or the world or the earth generally. So for maps, of course, like we know, they tell you your location, they tell you where you are, and of course your destination. So you want to know where you are presently and where you are going to. So there are different kinds of map, ranging from globes, okay, to maybe photo maps, to trail maps, so many other maps. We also have maybe satellite image maps. We have so many kinds of graph, maps, even to the extent of maybe mall directions, where we have directives. Okay, this is your location. You want to go to maybe Walmart, it's on level 2. You want to go to so shop, it's on level 3. So all these are just forms of map. Even airport layouts. Okay, when you get to the airports, you see the different destinations there. Like this description of the destinations, and then at times you have description of locations that you are going to. All these are embedded in the map. So what we are saying generally is that the knowledge of geography is very, very important when it comes to describing the traveler's world, when it comes to traveling. So like we all know, or like we've all learned, the earth is a sphere. So for most of the graphs to be accurate, the map of the world is presented in a globe. But then it's not the only presentation of map. Maps are presented, or the earth is presented in different forms. So we want to make reference to the Mercator projection, the Robinson projection, and of course the Booth Homolocene projection. So I'll just mention them briefly. You can read more in the main reading, that's the ebook. So the Mercator projection was actually developed for navigation purpose. Okay, we're going to see how it looks like in the subsequent slide. It's provided in a flat way so that it will be easy to study places, all right, to know the maps or to read the locations of places. We also have the Robinson projection, which provides a more accurate view of the world, but it also results in some distortion. Okay, it results in some distortion, especially at the poles, which appear to be larger than they really are. And the last one is the Goose Homolocene projection, which resembles a flattened orange peel. We're going to see the diagram in the subsequent slide, and it creates a more accurate view of the Earth. But one take home from all this projection of the Earth or presentation of the Earth is that no matter which of the approach, or no matter what approach is taken to represent the Earth in a two-dimensional format, some distortions will definitely occur. Some distortions will definitely occur. It's either some are projected in bigger forms such that the smaller ones will not appear, or some are not even projected, you understand. So all this we're going to see in these forms, or these three projections of the Earth in terms of maps. So this is the Mercator projection. We all know that the Earth is spherical in nature, but this has been presented for us to be able to understand the globe or the Earth better. So we cannot see everything at once, using the globe. So you have to turn, you have to move, all right? It's either you are moving the globe, or yourself is moving around the globe for you to be able to have a global view of the Earth. So, but this Mercator projection has actually presented it in a flat format. So here is the Robinson projection, and next is the Goose Homolocene projection. This looks like a flattened orange peel stuff. You understand? So these are the three projections when it comes to presentation of the Earth. Next, we want to look at geography and how it describes the traveler's world. It's geography that actually describes your world. Okay, we have this physical geography, which studies the natural features of region. You want to know about particular region, you want to know about their features, all right? Then you want to talk about human geography. This is another aspect of geography. The first aspect is the physical geography. You want to know locations, you want to know the regions, you want to know their features, you want to know their characteristics, and what distinguishes them from another. What distinguishes one from another. Then another aspect of geography is the human or cultural geography. Here is, it's basically related to the study of, regions, cultures, and people. All right, you want to know people's culture. You want to know people's region. You want to know what particular characteristics some particular regions do have. All right, then lastly, we have the regional aspect of geography, which is a combination of both the physical and the human geography, meaning that it's going to combine the regions, the features of the region with the culture of the people of those particular region. Studying tourism from business perspectives, all right? If you want to understand tourism from the perspective of business, then you need to have this basic knowledge of these three subjects or disciplines, all right? The first is marketing, the second is management, and the third component of business perspective of tourism is finance. So all these are very important, and we're going to take them briefly in the subsequent slides. The first one is marketing. When we talk about marketing, is the organizational philosophy centered around understanding and meeting the needs of the customers. So it's majorly service oriented concept. All right, you want to understand people's need and you want to know how you can meet those particular needs. Production orientation and sales orientation inferior to consumer orientation, meaning that your own production orientation and maybe your sales orientation are found to be less important when it comes to marketing. The customer orientation is, it takes the giant stride. So people come before the product as well as the sales that the company intends to make. Still on marketing, we want to move on to the 4 P's, which is the marketing piece. Okay, the marketing mix. The marketing mix is comprised of 4 P's: the product, the price, the place, and promotion. So all these are embedded, and you will likely come across them again. The product is what you want to offer. The price, okay, the amount you want to sell. The place, the location, and then as well as the promotion. How do you intend to convince people that yes, this your product or service is worth patronizing, worth patronage. Then we want to move on to market segmentation, and this allows an organization to develop the appropriate marketing mix to meet the needs. Basically, segmentation means dividing the market, okay, dividing your target market into different segments so as to be able to provide the specific needs of those particular segments effectively and efficiently. Next is management, and this can be defined as the planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of present and future actions in order to accomplish organizational goals. So when you say someone is managing, or when we talk about management, it entails so many components such as planning. You need to plan, to organize, you direct, okay, both physical and human resources, and then you control all these present and future actions, okay, so as to accomplish the aims and goals, okay, the aims and goals of the organization. The common thread that holds an organization together and moves all its members in the same direction, okay, it's also referred to as management. It entails it's a common thread that holds all these together, all the organization together, all the maybe let's refer to maybe departments, okay, the components of any organization. So planning has to do with coordination of all these aspects of any organization so as to be able to achieve the organizational goals and objectives. Then we want to talk about finance. Okay, don't forget that we've discussed about marketing, management, and lastly, we'll talk about finance. Finance involves how organizations manage their revenues and expenses. What are we getting as revenue and what are we spending as expenses? So they need to focus, the focus of finance is on how these two major components actually flow, all right, in terms of revenue and expenses or expenditure. Business is an organization operated with the objective of making profit. So ordinarily, you want to monitor how you spend and make sure that it falls far below what you gain as revenue for you to be able to make profit. So profits are revenue in excess of expenses and used as a measure of performance. This is a main measure of performance of any organization. Still on finance, the not-for-profit organization also need to track their revenues and expenses. Even when you are not for profit making, you still need to ensure that you have a track record of all your expenditure as well as your revenue. Accounting is the common language of business, okay? Accounting for whatever revenue, for whatever expenditure, yes, is referred to, or it's in common language in business. So the two categories of financial reports are the internal and external. The internal one are the ones that are meant for those that are private to the company, while the external one is those that involves reports that are meant for the public. Next, we want to talk about the three primary building blocks to measure financial success. How do you measure financial success? Don't forget that we've talked about the aim of businesses is to make the fact that the aim of businesses is to make profit. So how do we measure financial success of any organization? So these are the three primary building blocks. The first is the margin, and margin is the amount of sales dollar remaining after operating expenses. Okay, so you have your expenses. Okay, you've made your sales. Now you want to remove the operating expenses. So the difference between these two is known as the margin. Secondly, we have what is known as turnover, and this is the number of times a dollar of asset has been used to produce a particular dollar of sales. So that is what turnover is. While leverage is the third component of the building block. Okay, and leverage means the extent to which borrowed funds are used, to what channel, to what extent, or to what use are these borrowed funds being channeled. So all these are the three primary building blocks when it comes to measuring financial successes of any organization. Other measurements of financial success involves the return on investment, that's the ROI, and this is a measure of the profitability of any organization. Tourism organizations typically face low margins, high turnover, and they need to use the leverage, all right? They need to use other people's money. Don't forget that we've mentioned in the previous slide just now that these are the three building blocks when it comes to measuring organizations' profit. So there is need to balance financial performance with hospitality to guests. You need to balance your own financial performance in terms of the profits you are making with your hospitality to your guests if you still want them to come back and patronize your company. Here is the figure showing the three building blocks as mentioned earlier. We have the margin, okay, it could be high or low. All right, here we have high margin, here we have the low margin. We have the leverage here. All right, so it's this leverage that is right at the bottom. This is other people's money which is used, okay, for the business, and then we have the turnover here. So these are the three major components: the leverage, the margin, as well as the turnover. What are the challenges? There is no industry without its challenges. What are tourism challenges and opportunities? Of course, there are opportunities and there are challenges as well. So tourism is often an attractive form of economic development. Any nation that wants to develop may want to do so by developing its or creating side attractions for people to patronize, or for tourism, or for tourists to visit those locations. Tourism creates wide variety of jobs. Okay, we're still going to talk about the career opportunities of tourism as an industry. Then it brings money into community or country. It brings money, is a form of revenue generation for many countries. Tourism can create greater cultural understanding. It's when you go to places that you know or you learn about other people's culture, and you learn to adapt. Okay, you learn to adapt, or you learn to understand their culture with the intention of having an amicable or amiable coexistence. Okay, you don't want to tramp on other people's culture. You don't want to you don't want to cause any kind of inconvenience for anybody just because you don't understand their culture. So when you understand people's culture, then you tend to have a greater understanding of the way they live, their way of life, and you try to just know it for them and take it as it is. Tourism can also change social structures and strain natural man-made resources. This is a very major challenge, okay, when it comes to tourism. It changes social structures. More people, or you have more people trooping in. You also, the existing or the host community also get to see more people. They know about other people's culture, the visitors and culture. It could now also lead to a change, okay? It could lead to change in their own structure, and it could strain their natural resources as well as the man-made resources. Ethics and industry codes of ethics also help guide individuals when making decisions. Okay, ethics and industry codes of ethics, it helps to guide individual when making decisions as to where to visit as a tourist, whether for leisure, for work, for business, for anything. So where do you fit in as a student of knowledge of this particular course? Where do you fit in? Wealth of career opportunities exist in tourism, like I mentioned earlier. A wealth of career opportunities. If you try to cast your mind back to the slide where we have the elephant and the blind men, okay, where the elephant is the bigger picture of what is known as tourism, and where other blind men just describe the elephant according to what they could feel. You understand? The transportation, the maybe service providers, accommodation, transportation, and so on and so forth. So all these are major components that one might be interested in when it comes to service provision in the tourism industries. Tourism will remain the world's largest industry with highest job rates. Okay, it has been argued that it is the main, and it's going to remain the world's industry, the world's largest industry that's going to provide job growth in any economy. On this note, we've come to the end of our discussion for this week. Hopefully, we'll see you again next week for another topic on tourism. Before then, please do take care of yourself and have a nice time. Bye bye. See you.